Welcome to Slow and Steady, the podcast where you get to follow along as we figure out how to build and run a SaaS. I'm Benedict.
And I'm Brian. Each week, we'll give you an honest peek into our lives as we work on our products and keep the lights on with consulting. Today is November 27th, and I am feeling ready.
This is episode number 19, and I'm feeling confused. You feel ready? That sounds good.
Yeah. No, I'm feeling some good momentum. I am ready for things to start happening and for things to just start moving along. So I had some good momentum this week that we can talk about. Are you feeling confused because we're going to have to change that little line about and keep the lights on with consulting here in just like a month and a half?
No, that's not the point.
That's not it. Okay.
Also, are you planning to stop consulting?
Me?
Yeah,
eventually.
Because in a way, it's still true then.
Eventually, yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. It does say as we work on our products and keep the lights on with consulting. We'll see. What's got you feeling confused?
As always, I'm working on in-app messages and got confused with the approach of doing the authentication. I mentioned it a couple episodes ago that I was thinking about doing it with JSON Web Tokens, and I tried to properly implement it this week, and for some reason, like all the libraries for JWT made it super awkward and hard to implement it, like in the way we use it, like where we're not the ones handing out the tokens, but basically receiving tokens and then trying to match them up with keys in our database and stuff like that. And like all the implementations I tried turned up quite clunky and complicated, and that made me wonder if I'm doing it the wrong way. So right before we started this call, I started a Twitter thread asking people for opinions. We see how it goes.
Okay, hopefully you'll get some feedback.
Yeah, I hope so too.
Help on that.
Maybe people come up with better solutions, or maybe they confirm that it's just the implementations that are strange and not my approach of doing things. So yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, I threw a mention to one of my friends who's like extremely deep on JavaScript as well. So hopefully he can help you out. But what's the basic thing is, so I'm a user that is at a that's within it, that's at an application, and that application is one of your customers, right? And so you need to send me messages, and sometimes those messages can have some sensitive data in them.
Yeah.
And so me, the user, like my client, needs to be handshaking back and forth with the backend application to be sure that I am who I claim to be.
Yeah.
Okay. So what's the main problem that you're having trouble solving there?
Well, like it feels like the JSON Web Tokens are the right tool for that. But like, for example, they allow me to embed an identifier, like a unique identifier that I know identifies this particular user inside our system as well as our customer system. That can be embedded in the payload. And then they can use their secret key to sign that message and or sign that token, and then embed that in the web page and send it via JavaScript to our API. And there we would unpack it and then look at there's a header part of the token that can include like stuff like key ID and stuff like that. And we read the key ID from that and then try to find the shared secret in our database and use that to verify that the token is correct.
Yes.
And that process works, but like all the implementations, like all the libraries and such, make it super awkward to basically extract the header information and look up the key and then verify the key using the secret. It's not impossible. Like I can make it work, but
but it feels like it smells hacky to you that you're like, oh, I've got to be receiving this I'm going to be doing this the wrong way
Yeah,
because
exactly.
parsing it out feels clunky and hacky and not clean.
Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. And that
All right.
just confuses me in a way that, sure, I'm maybe not using it in the way it was intended, but it still feels more complicated than it should be.
Mm-hmm.
And that's usually a smell that gets me, well, careful with going forward. And
Yeah.
therefore I'm a bit confused and insecure about, maybe I'm missing something, maybe I'm using this in a way that it's not intended.
Okay.
And I started a Twitter thread mostly to either like get feedback and people confirming that this isn't the wrong way. It's just like nobody thought about using it like that, and therefore the implementations are kind of awkward.
Mm-hmm.
Or hopefully the other way, it could turn out as people point me to something else that I didn't know of before, or recommend some,
What
do it
what's the
yourself or
what's the
whatever.
library that you're using on the back end to parse that out?
It's the JWT Ruby gem
Okay.
that I used.
Okay.
And that's one advertised on the JWTIO website, and it looks like it's the go-to implementation. There are a couple others, but like all of them make it feel harder than it should be.
Okay. All right.
And
Let's see.
I mean, there's stuff like there is a way to have like multiple keys and even key sets with public keys and private keys, but like it still feels like it's for a very small set of keys, like where you have like maybe 5 keys or so. While in our use case, we would have a key for every customer we have. So it's a lot more, and we cannot possibly load them all into memory and pass it to that library, because that's how they expect to receive the key sets. And it just like feels wrong.
Okay. All right. Well, good luck to you.
Thank you.
Other than the like that little, or not little, other than that, authentication and security piece of in-app messaging, how is the rest of it coming together for you? I think I promised about a month and a half or 2 months ago that I would start really holding your feet to the fire. So
yeah,
I feel an obligation here.
It's like it's moving forward. Like I had in-app messages delivered to the test playground I set up with the clunky implementation a couple of days ago, but then I basically deleted all of the code again because it felt like wrong. But I have a to-do list on my whiteboard there, and it's only 5 more items on it.
Cool.
To get the first version out.
Cool. So just to be completely clear on that, I'm understanding you. It's you're not the clunkiness or the smell that you have. It's not having to do with the like the security piece of it. Like you feel confident about that.
Yeah.
It's just ugly code on the. Okay. All right. I mean, that feels like.
It feels like the right hammer for the problem. Like I think it's the right tool because that's what it's intended for, like passing user identities around.
Yeah.
But it feels like I'm using it in a way that nobody else is using it, and that makes me wonder if I'm missing something.
Gotcha. What else is going on with UserList?
We had a pretty good week, or actually a couple weeks over the last month or so. November was pretty great in terms of new signups, new trials. I think we converted like 50% or so of the trials we got this month.
Wow, nice.
And we finally broke through the magical 1K MRR
all right
threshold. And that got us pretty excited because it took a bit longer than we wanted it to.
Yeah.
So, and especially basically since after the launch, we were basically bumping against that upper limit and never were able to break through. And it was last week or the week before where we finally got a couple conversions and now we're well over
Okay.
1,000 MRR, and that feels pretty good.
Congrats. Any sense at all why the conversion rates were so much better in November?
I don't know. Maybe it was a little bit microconf related because we talked to a lot of people there, and maybe instilled some trust in the product that way. Maybe it was the podcast tours. I don't know.
Who
Like,
knows?
we can't really track it down to one specific thing we did, but it's probably everything we did over the last couple of months.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe it's just as simple as summer's over, everyone's back to work. Yeah, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it takes a bit of time to convert people from anonymous visitor to knowing about you, trusting you. Here's my credit card. Yeah. Well, congrats. I mean, but so related to that, it was not that you added some huge new feature to bring you to parity with some other competitor.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
We didn't ship anything. Anything big this month. So
I feel like that's an encouraging sign that you're gaining traction and you are converting people without having to add new features and do some huge marketing push. Like, it says that what you have is viable in and of itself, and part of it is getting the word out, doing some continuing to do outreach, those sorts of things. Yeah.
I guess one of the problems is that it's not an impulse buy product. It's something, it has to be the right time. So, and I keep saying this, it's hard to convert people on the spot. It probably takes months until they find the right time to sign up. And for some reason now it seems to be the time for a lot of people to give it a try.
Yeah. It's definitely not an impulse purchase.
Yeah, and even it's too complicated of a product, I guess, to be an impulse purchase.
Yeah. What are I imagine also that the barrier for switching over to user list from one of your competitors that your customers become frustrated with, they're ready to switch over, that they've got all sorts of deeply ingrained, code for one with the competitor, habits that they're frustrated with them, but oh gosh, maybe they would rather live with that pain than the pain of switching over. Are you having conversations with folks about how to make that process easier?
We offer helping them with the migration, basically logging into their other account, copying over what we can, setting up similar flows, hand-holding them through the technical part and stuff like that. But it's still a huge task, and not many people have taken us up on that.
Yeah, that's right. We've talked about that. That really, I gotta say, I feel like I'm surprised by that. That when you offer it, people don't take you up on it.
At the moment, we're not promoting it on the website. Maybe that's something we should do, just to maybe reduce the fear of giving it a try.
Yeah.
But in demo calls and stuff like that, we usually mention it when it comes up, and we offer our help. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. There's this really, I'm sure if you mentioned it to Claire, she would know exactly what this is, and you and Jane may be familiar with it as well. But there's this really helpful model called the forces of progress. Have you heard of this?
No.
Okay.
Not yet.
And it basically is much more helpful if you have a visual in front of you. But I'll try to describe it, and I've got a blog post on this. But it's basically like if somebody's trying to decide between switching from their current situation to a new thing, that imagine on the top of the equation here is push of their current situation. So they're using intercom and they're frustrated because it's become it's too expensive, it's extremely complicated. So intercom is pushing them away. And then there you've got the pull of a new situation. hey, I really dig this thing that Benedict and Jane are building, and like everybody at microconf is talking about it, and it looks like it's easier to use. So that would be pulling them towards the new thing. So they're being pushed from their current situation because it sucks. They're being pulled by something attractive and new because it looks, oh, this might be worth it. So you have push plus pull, but then that is over anxiety and habit. So anxiety is, oh my gosh, like I don't know if I want to go through the process of going through my code base, making all these changes, et cetera, et cetera. Like what if we go through this whole process and actually user list isn't any better? Whatever. So that's their anxiety. And then there is anxiety plus habit, which is I know it stinks, but I'm used to it. And so if push plus pull is greater than anxiety plus habit, then they'll switch. But if push plus pull is less than anxiety plus habit, then they stay in their current situation. And so that model is just having that in mind to me is super, super helpful when you're talking to a customer who didn't switch, who like got into the trial but then didn't convert, to find out, to just I think just to have like 4 points that you're really looking for to see which of these are really, really strong. Because user list, you can affect pull and anxiety. Those are the things that you can control. And so if it's habit that is keeping people stuck, then you need to find ways of addressing that in some other way. You can't do anything about their habit, and you can't do anything about push when you're trying to get somebody to come over. But if you can identify those things, then you can find ways to address them.
I like that model. Yeah. I have to read your blog post on that,
Cool.
I guess.
Yeah, I'll link to it in the show notes, and you can check it out.
Yeah, we'll definitely do it. Makes so much sense, especially to basically put names to all those 4 pieces and explicitly try to find out why people didn't convert. Like either the push wasn't bad enough, or they love their habits or whatever, and then try to find out which of these 4 it is, or which combination.
It's a combination of them. And if people aren't switching, it's because anxiety and habit is greater than what they like. They don't hate intercom enough, or they don't love user list enough. You're not like promoting the things that should be pulling them. And hey, don't have to be anxious. We have killer documentation. We're going to get on the phone with you. Like reducing their anxiety makes it that much more likely for you that the algorithm is gonna, or that the equation is gonna go in your favor.
So that's smart. That reminds me that we had this plan of having the alternative 2 pages on our website, and we haven't worked on that yet. We should probably do it, because like it feels like a perfect page to address some of the anxiety aspects of it. Like, we do the migration for you. The API is super similar. Here's our great help docs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, let me write down a note that we that we get back into this.
Well, there's always more to be done than a human has time for. So
yeah, true.
What you've got some notes about barometrics here.
Yeah. We signed up for barometrics 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
And it was a hard decision because they raised their prices. I don't know when, but it starts at $100 these days. That's the minimum plan. So it was like, it wasn't an easy decision, but in the end, it's a really great tool. So we decided to spend the money, and even we decided to go for the annual plan, because probably we'll be using it for the next year or so.
Yeah. What's the annual plan? You get 2 free months probably.
It's 3 free months, so it's $900 one time or per year, and it's just like we tried the other competitors, I guess, maybe not all of them, but we tried Profitwell, which worked okay, but for some reason I didn't like their UI. It just feels a bit clunky to me. And we also tried ChartMogul, which has a nice UI, but for some reason the numbers in there, they imported the number, like all the data from our Stripe account, but the charts they produced and the numbers they output they didn't make any sense. like
like were confusing, or like the math was objectively bad?
The math was objectively bad.
Huh.
Like the MRR number they came up with, not even close to what. Like, I mean, sure, there are a couple of ways to calculate MRR and stuff, but like back then we had like 15 customers, so it's a calculation that I can do in a spreadsheet.
Yeah, right.
And come up with a number that feels
right.
like this should be our MRR. And Child Mogul just had a number that was higher than that for some reason. I mean, I could maybe argue why it would be lower, but like I didn't find a good reason why it would be higher.
Yeah.
And also looking at basically the history data, at some point we were above 1K MRR for a very short, like a week or so in the past, and then one of our biggest accounts canceled. So we had a nice spike in the graph, but in Chart Mogul that wasn't there. Like, it was just missing.
That was
and that
easy to eliminate.
Made me question
everything
about that tool.
Yep, that's right. Are you talking to Matt Winsing about Summit?
Yes, we signed up for Summit as well, and I talked
a lot to Matt.
Talked to Matt a lot about Summit. I think I wrote him, I don't know, 100 messages on Twitter over a weekend, just asking about different aspects of it, and he didn't get annoyed with me, which was nice.
That's funny, because I had a Twitter conversation with Matt as well, and he didn't get annoyed with me. So he's just
like a nice guy.
He is just a friendly guy on the old Twitter DMs.
What did you talk about?
He reached out to me like right after last week's episode, and he said, "Hey, about Foothold." He just starts. He's like, "I got to admit, it doesn't carry any of the positive emotional connotations that I would have expected." And I was like, "Okay, that's first of all, seriously, thank you for the feedback. Like, don't dance around, crap. Like, that's not helping anybody." So I was like, "Thanks for the feedback. That's a no." So it's a no for you. He's like, "Yeah." So we ended up talking for a while, and where he's just kind of helping me, narrow in on some things where, like, we kind of started to come around this concept of like echo technology, of like that's what I'm trying to communicate, is like, sending a ping out and getting it, getting it back. Hey, all good. Like that is what I want my tool to do. I don't think it cannot. I do not think that software is going to solve loneliness and isolation. It cannot solve it. It actually creates it, I think. Yep. But what it can do is help to monitor it and put you in touch with resources that will help, or remind you to, put in some procedure, some policies that will like make it less likely. Anyway, so you're like throwing around a bunch of ideas. I mean, we talked for like, he kept messaging me back for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. It was really nice. And so, anyway, but the thing that I ended up coming back to was like, I just need to choose something and go with it. And so I just picked projectheadlamp.com, because it was available. I feel like if you put project in front of something, that implies that it's temporary and that like, I can change this at any time. And so, projectheadlamp.com is launched, and big thanks to Matt Winsing at Summit for helping me to think through a bunch of roundabout possibilities and options.
So what you're saying, basically, you settled on a name and launched a website?
Yes.
Wow, congrats.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Cool.
What was like a really good forcing function here is that, are you familiar with We Work Remotely?
It's a job board, right?
It is, yeah. So it used to be a 37 Signals property. I said used to. I think it's not anymore. I could be wrong about that, but I'm fairly certain. Anyway, so yeah, it's a remote work job board, but they also have this Slack community that I've been a member of for a little while. But it's one of those Slack communities that is massive. I don't have Slack up right now because we're doing the show, but there's like 3,000, 4,000 members or something, like a ton. And so that's good. There are a lot of people there, but when a community gets that big, it's almost like you're just super anonymous and it's hard to make connections, um, and so versus something like Mega Maker, which has a couple hundred, so that's great. It's got critical mass, but if you contribute enough and show up enough, like you get to know people.
Yeah.
We Work Remotely has never felt that way to me until last week. Their community manager reached out and said, "Hey, do you want to be the featured community member this week?" And I was like, "Well, this is decent timing." And so I said, "Sure." And so I scrambled real quick just to get something up, so that people could take a look and sign up, give me their email address if they wanted to. It did not drive much traffic to the site at all, but what it did do was it got me a number of DMs and threads started in that community, which is what I've struggled so hard, pardon me, struggled so hard to do, is make some connections and have some real relationships in that group, in that community. And so those were, that was kind of the impetus for it. Good stuff happening there. So I recorded a Loom demo and just of where Headlamp is at right now, and was able to send it out back to a few of those people, starting to get some feedback, and so I'm ready.
Anyone interested in using it?
A couple people have said, "Hey, yeah, this looks good. We're interested." And so now I need to employ the Ben Orenstein and userlist.com approach and say, "Sweet, I'm going to charge you for a year, and I'm going to use this money to help to make progress on this thing. Thank you so much. Here's the alpha, and I won't start charging you until the beta is delivered, or I won't start the clock until the beta is delivered." So got to see how those conversations go now. I'll
That
keep you
reminds me,
posted.
I promised you to send you some code last week and didn't do it.
Oh yes, that's right. I need this I need this Rails repo. Yeah, totally. Anyway,
that's awesome.
And well, yeah, and I'll just go ahead and plug as well that I think maybe an hour and a half ago is when the Bright and Early episode with Ben Orenstein published. So if that stuff is interesting to you and you're listening to this podcast, you should check that episode out. It was a good conversation.
I'll definitely check that one out. Sure. Yeah.
So, yeah, man, that's where that is
awesome.
at.
How many people already signed up for your mailing list on the Headlamp website?
Not many, like 20 something, I think.
That's not too bad.
I was a really good kid. I think I expected more. Maybe I was naive in expecting more visits, because the conversion rate is great. I mean, it's like a 20-something% of people who showed up to the site, gave me their email address, because it only sent 100-something visits, which I think is just, again, it's just like another indication of when a community has such a large number, there's actually so many people who aren't engaged or just see so much noise that they don't actually drill in when things get shared. But anyway, whatever. Super grateful to get the mention there and to make some connections with people who are engaged, because I want to be pretty engaged and contributing and helpful there.
Yeah, it sounds like a great opportunity, and the timing was perfect, I guess.
Timing was really nice. Yeah, timing was nice.
Mean, if anything, it forced you to set up a website, choose a name, and just get something out there.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And that is what it did.
What's your plan? What's the next step?
Well, I want to get this. I need to shorten the demo that I made runs long, and so I want to redo it. I can watch it a few times and note some things where it's like, yeah, I don't really need that. So I want to cut it down, get it down to 4 minutes max. I think right now it's 8, way too long. Fortunately, I mean, you can 1.5x it when you watch it on Loom, so that brings it shorter. But it does. I want to make it more succinct. Want to do some direct outreach to a bunch of people who like said hi in the Slack group but then didn't sign up, to say, hey, thanks for the nice welcome, blah blah blah. Is this something that have more direct conversations? Like, is this something that you would be interested in using? Are you a member of a team, a remote team? Almost everybody obviously is there, but try to filter out people who are on teams of less than 10, 15. I don't think that software is what's needed in those contexts.
Mm.
So yeah, that is my plan, is to keep the momentum going, but do some direct outreach to drive people there and start get a credit card in my hand.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Are you on your website? Let me just quickly check. No, you're just asking for the email address. I'm wondering if it
Right.
would make sense to ask for team size or something like that as well.
Yeah, what I wanna do is have the autoresponder. Right now, it's just like a lengthy email kind of describing, here's how this came about. Here's how I could use your help. Are you interested in helping? And what I want to do is break that up into maybe like a 3 or 4 like email sequence, where number one, I don't know exactly what the sequence would be, but so that they're way more bite sized. One of those would be to send them to a lead scoring survey of what's your company name, how many people could be using this, what are you using right now, etc. Maybe that's in anything else we should know. Just like a handful of very short questions. But so right now I'm not doing that. Just wanted to get something written, built, and in place, so now I can start to tweak it and fix it.
Yeah, sounds good. You should also put the video in there, I guess.
Yeah. That's why I want to re-record it and make it a bit more succinct.
If I remember correctly, I think Jane recorded the audio track and the video, like the screen capture, separately from each other. So basically recording the description first and then using the lengthy screen cap recording to just like show pieces of it.
Chop. That's smart.
Yeah, and underlay it, instead of trying to do it all in like 2 minutes while recording it and speaking over it.
Great tip. That's a really good tip.
It's more editing work, but I feel like
not that. Yeah, it's okay. Not that
it's
much.
It's easier to achieve the short version, like the short form.
Yeah. What else? Oh, one other cool thing that happened in my week was I woke up on Monday and had a mention from Baremetrics that I was listed on their baremetrics.com/experts page that they just launched.
Nice. How did that happen?
I think, I don't know for certain, but I'm pretty sure that Corey Haynes, who's like their head of growth over there, I think that he's a bright and early listener. I'm like trying to go back and feel like, yeah, I remember he's like, I know for sure that we've had a couple of conversations and we even had like a video call at one point to talk about something. And I'm 90 something percent certain it was because of bright and early. So
nice. Podcasting starts to pay off.
Well, yeah. I mean, those are like, I always say though, that those are just the ancillary benefits of it. The number one benefit for me is just the feeling of, talking to people I respect, getting feedback on ideas and sharing them with the world. Like, it's so nice when it leads to other things, but that is just, I mean, talk about combating, isolation when you're working remote. Like, podcasting has solved it for me.
Yeah,
I mean it.
Smart approach.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the reason why everyone's starting a podcast these days. All the lonely remote workers just want to talk to people.
Just tired of screaming into the void of their home office, scream into the not quite complete and total void of the podcasting universe.
Yeah.
What that's all I've got, man. Well, I'm it's Thanksgiving in the United States tomorrow, or actually today, if you're listening to this on Thursday. So I'm going to take off probably tomorrow and Friday, and then I'll be back at it next week. What do you got going? Going to run down this JWT thing, and
yeah, I'm trying to make some progress on that. Like, let's see. Like, as I said, started a Twitter thread just before we started the recording. I'm going to review hopefully a lot of a lot of replies, and then let's see if I can come up with something good until the next week.
And then ship in-app messaging on Friday?
Probably not yet, but like, I mean, if I solve this part, then the other parts are, I know what to do there. Like,
am I seeing you looking at your board?
Yes.
Okay.
It's right next on the opposite wall.
Like, see you looking at something over there.
I just have to move my head a little bit, and there's my to-do list.
What would happen if you shipped it without that list of 5 things that you're looking at?
It wouldn't work.
Okay. Cool.
So it's really just essentials, and
yeah,
it will be crappy. Like, it will not be nice, but it will work.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're not going to ship it to any customers just yet, but just getting it into the hands of Jane and Claire and maybe 1 or 2 alpha testers would already be a good thing. Like, a first good step. And then there's probably still a lot to change and improve, but just want to get it out there for someone other than me to use.
Yeah, that's a good step. All right. Well, cool. I think that's it for this week.
Yeah. Enjoy your Thanksgiving holiday.
Thanks so much.
Don't spend too much on discounted ebooks
on Black Friday. Yeah. I will just turn off my Wi-Fi router on Friday.
And looking forward to talk to you again next week.
Cool. Show notes at slowandsteadypodcast.com. Follow us on Twitter at slowsteadypod. Later.
Yep. Bye.